Michigan may look like just another state on a map, but nothing could be further from the truth. Hidden inside those familiar borders is a terrain way stranger than almost anyone imagines. The outline hides real complexity, loaded with geographic quirks that catch people off guard. Hang in there for every one of these 35 facts, and everything will snap into focus by the finish. 35. The massive Great Lakes water volume. The Great Lakes mold and dominate Michigan's layout, containing around 6 quadrillion gallons total. That's a figure tough to wrap your head around, about 20% of Earth's surface freshwater. For perspective, pour it over the lower 48 states, and you'd drown them under almost 10 feet everywhere coast to coast. These lakes create a huge inland sea that shapes local weather, ecosystems, and even regional personality. Michigan stands alone as the sole state touching 4 out of 5 Great Lakes: Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, and Lake Erie. This prime spot turns the state into a sprawling network of peninsulas encircled by enormous inland waters that generate their own tides, fierce storms, and endless tales of sunken ships. 34. Earth's longest freshwater shoreline. Michigan boasts the planet's longest freshwater coast, clocking in at a staggering 3,288 miles, outpacing the full U.S. Atlantic seaboard. Among all states, only Alaska tops its overall coastline length. This epic edge mixes everything from massive sand dunes and rugged cliffs to serene marshes and bustling ports. Split into 2 distinct peninsulas and hemmed by the Great Lakes expanse, the state keeps water within easy reach almost everywhere. Shoreline vibes shift endlessly, offering endless variety. You could beach hop for a lifetime and still uncover secret coves plus pristine sandy stretches. 33. The 85-mile proximity rule. Michigan follows a quirky geographic law. From any spot inside its borders, you're no farther than 85 miles from one of the giant Great Lakes. That puts every local within quick striking distance of some of the world's biggest freshwater expanses. Even cooler, nobody's ever more than 6 miles from a lake, river, or stream, thanks to over 11,000 inland lakes dotting the land like sapphire jewels. Whether amid dense northern woods or southern urban hubs, water's always nearby. This ever-present liquid legacy has woven boating, fishing, and swimming deep into daily life and traditions. 32. The mighty Mack Bridge's flex. The Mackinac Bridge joins Michigan's 2 giant peninsulas in an engineering marvel spanning nearly 5 miles. One of the Western Hemisphere's longest suspension spans. Its secret? Builders made it sway on purpose. Fierce gusts blast the narrow straits of Mackinac, so the design prioritizes bend over brittleness. In brutal storms, the main section can swing up to 35 feet side to side. Scary at first glance, but that give keeps the steel intact instead of snapping. It masterfully bridges the gap between land chunks split by churning deep waters. Soaring 200 feet overhead, it delivers epic, occasionally vertigo-inducing vistas where Lake Michigan meets Lake Huron. 31. The ever-changing Sleeping Bear Dunes. Michigan's Lower Peninsula northwest coast features the stunning Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, with colossal sand ridges soaring nearly 450 feet over Lake Michigan. Called perch dunes, they perch atop glacial ridges instead of hugging the waves. Their size stuns. Sheer golden walls rocket skyward, evoking desert vibes smack in the Midwest heartland. But stability? Not these giants. Strong gusts blowing westward from the lake relentlessly drive and sculpt the sand, gradually relocating the dunes over the terrain. As they advance, These sands can engulf entire woodlands, producing eerie ghost forests in their wake. Decades or even centuries afterward, the entombed trees might emerge again as the dunes keep migrating. This perpetual shifting ensures the park's scenery is in constant flux, with winds ceaselessly etching fresh crests, inclines, and majestic shapes. 30. The nested island of Siskiwit. Deep in the frigid expanse of Lake Superior lies the untamed, secluded Isle Royale National Park. This remote island haven boasts bizarre land and water features. Its standout marvel is a layered setup reminiscent of a natural Matryoshka doll. At the heart of Isle Royale sprawls Siskiwit Lake, a vast interior waterway. Within it rises Ryan Island. That alone forms a scarce setup. An island inside a lake on an island amid one of Earth's biggest lakes. Yet the nesting goes further on Ryan Island, where Moose Flats, a temporary pond, forms in wet seasons. When brimming, it isolates Moose Boulder as a minuscule island. In such scenarios, you get a rock that's an island within a pond, on an island in a lake, on an island in a lake. Among the planet's most intricate land-water nestings. This bizarre layering stems from mighty glaciers that sculpted and molded the jagged area millennia ago, yielding a labyrinth of lakes, islands, and concealed wonders distant from today's continent. 29. The ancient Porcupine Mountains. In Michigan's Upper Peninsula far west, the jagged Porcupine Mountains thrust upward along Lake Superior's edge. Though not rivaling giants like the Rockies in stature, they rank among Earth's oldest ranges. Their roots trace to about 2 billion years ago, born in an ancient time of fierce volcanic forces reshaping the planet's surface. Eons of wear have mellowed their summits, crafting the undulating yet striking vistas of now. Native peoples dubbed the chain for its silhouette, evoking a huddled porcupine against the skyline. Nowadays, it safeguards North America's biggest unbroken tract of prime northern hardwood woods. Its terrain features a lengthy escarpment hugging the lakeshore, forging broad ridges and steep hollows, highlighted by the stunning Lake of the Clouds vista. 28. The mineral-painted Pictured Rocks, stretching along Lake Superior's south shore. Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore dazzles with colossal sandstone bluffs seemingly splashed in brilliant hues. The vivid bands are purely natural, born from minerals ferried via groundwater through the stone. Seeping through the crumbly sandstone, water hauls these elements to the faces. Air exposure sparks oxidation, yielding eye-catching shades. Iron yields vivid reds and oranges. Copper sparks brilliant blues and greens. Manganese lays down deep browns and blacks. And limonite deposits faint white marks over the faces. These striking walls soar up to 200 feet over the lake's chill waves and span nearly 15 miles along the coast. The sandstone's relative softness lets ages of crashing surf etch sea caves, spans, and elaborate shapes like Miner's Castle. To this day, gusts, waves, and frost keep remolding the bluffs, sometimes toppling huge chunks into the water and gradually transforming the scene for those to come. 27. The summit of Mount Arvin. For ages, folks argued over Michigan's actual highest spot in Dush. Mount Kerwood long claimed the crown, but a 1982 survey with better tools uncovered a shocker. Mount Arvin in Baraga County edges higher at 1,979 feet above sea level, about 11 inches taller than the Challenger. Still, there's a quirky kicker. Though Mount Arvin rules as the state's top natural elevation, a human creation outdoes it. At Marquette County's Tilden Mine, a massive heap of mining debris towers past 2,000 feet. In this odd twist of geography, the engineered dirt pile eclipses Michigan's loftiest true peak. Summiting Mount Arvin is its own quest. Hikers tackle twisting logging trails to reach a humble crest buried in thick woods, lacking the sweeping panoramas many envision. 26. The enigma of erosion at Turnup Rock. Right at the end of Michigan's Thumb Peninsula towers one of the state's most peculiar geological wonders, Turnup Rock. This quirky limestone column emerges from Lake Huron's shallow depths, isolated from the mainland by ages of relentless wind and wave action. Gradually, the waves eroded the bottom faster than the upper part, resulting in a slender stem holding up a broader cap that mimics a massive turnip bursting from the water. What heightens its allure is the inability to access it by foot, since the adjacent shore belongs to private owners. The sole option for a close encounter is crossing the lake by boat. Most explorers paddle around 7 miles in kayaks from Port Austin. Atop the pillar, resilient trees and sparse greenery endure against all odds on this minuscule stone outpost in the lake's midst. 25. Detroit's secret underworld. Deep under Detroit's bustling streets hides a massive subterranean labyrinth few ever know about. Almost 1,200 feet down lies the sprawling Detroit salt mines, an underground expanse spanning over 1,500 acres. These salt layers originated millions of years back from an ancient sea that once flooded the area. As that water slowly dried up, it deposited dense strata of premium rock salt far below the surface. Inside the mines, the environment holds steady, with temperatures hovering near 60 degrees Fahrenheit constantly, immune to surface weather shifts. Stack the mine's vertical shafts end to end, and they'd climb almost as tall as the iconic Empire State Building. This hidden realm features its own setup, including over 100 miles of broad tunnels and roadways built to handle hefty mining vehicles. These days, much of the salt pulled from under the Motor City goes toward melting ice on Midwest highways, so traces of that prehistoric ocean now aid in clearing contemporary paths through winter blasts. 24. The planet's biggest limestone quarry. Along Lake Huron's edge in Rogers City sits the gigantic calcite quarry, deemed the world's largest limestone operation. Its sheer size is so immense, it's visible even from orbit. For over 100 years, the site has yielded huge volumes of high-calcium limestone, vital for steel production, road construction, and building projects. Covering more than 7,000 acres, it forms a staggering industrial scar etched into the landscape. Next to it stands a specialized harbor where enormous freighters dock to haul millions of tons of rock to Great Lakes ports. Through ongoing digging, the relentless work has utterly altered the local topography, sculpting a tremendous artificial gorge that competes with nature's own formations. It exemplifies how heavy industry can forever reshape the land, converting a serene lakeside spot into a key hub for resource extraction. 23. The 45th Parallel Divide. As you drive across Michigan's northern Lower Peninsula, roadside signs might note you're precisely midway between the equator and North Pole. This is the 45th parallel north, a key latitudinal line encircling the globe. In the state, it holds unique geographical weight. Near this marker, the terrain eases from expansive fields and rolling hills into denser pine woodlands typical of the north. It signals a quiet ecological shift, too. Beyond it, winters turn sharper and longer, with flora adapting to tougher, more northerly conditions. The 45th parallel underscores Earth's axial tilt and its influence on weather and habitats. Pausing there can evoke a deep sense of wonder, aware that tropical heat and Arctic chill lie equidistant from this unassuming spot in such an extraordinary place. 22. Thunder Bay's sinkholes. Under Lake Hiron's surface off Alpena hides an otherworldly submerged terrain. Inside Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, researchers have uncovered vast sinkholes dotting the lake bottom. They arise where underground water from limestone aquifers rises gradually into the lake. This upward flow carries high sulfur levels and scant oxygen, fostering a chemical milieu unlike the rest of the water. In essence, it echoes the primordial conditions thought to prevail on Earth eons ago. Rather than ordinary water plants and fish, these sinkholes are blanketed in dense, bright purple layers of cyanobacteria. These resilient microbes thrive in the odd low oxygen setting, making the site a prime natural lab for researchers exploring the origins of life on Earth. Certain underwater pits drop hundreds of feet deep into the lake bed, forming enigmatic gaps where old groundwater blends with the lake overhead. Down in those dim depths, geological and biological forces collide, fostering a unique habitat that preserves traces of our planet's remote history right now. 21. The Kewin Peninsula Copper. Michigan's rough Kewin Peninsula stands out for an uncommon geological event. It's among the few spots worldwide where huge quantities of copper appear in pure metal form, called native copper. Elsewhere, copper hides in intricate ores, needing intense processing and smelting to yield the metal. But here, it developed uniquely. Over 1 billion years back, intense volcanic eruptions unleashed massive lava flows over the area. As the hot rock hardened, copper crystals formed straight into the volcanic rock in its pure metal form. That rare setup triggered a huge 19th century mining rush. Prospectors dug up massive solid copper masses trapped in stone, some so huge they required weeks or months to free with basic tools. These days, the peninsula's wooded slopes and stony ground still show signs of that mining age, with derelict shafts, leftover gear, and heritage spots dotting the terrain as testaments to the immense mineral riches buried in this northern land's ancient bedrock. 20. The Arch Rock of Mackinac Island. Looming strikingly along the east coast of Mackinac Island is Michigan's famed natural wonder, Archie Rock. This elegant limestone arch rises around 146 feet over Lake Hiron waters and spans about 50 feet wide, crafting a natural span high above the shore. Its story dates to the post-Ice Age era thousands of years ago. Back then, Great Lakes water levels towered much higher. Fierce waves from the ancient glacial Lake Algonquin pounded the tender limestone bluffs nonstop. Over time, softer bottom layers eroded away, leaving the tougher top portion standing. As lake levels fell, the arch ended up elevated far above the updated shore, a bold leftover from a bygone seaside. Now it's one of Michigan's top photo spots, a vivid cue that the calm waters beneath once roared far higher, sculpting the terrain well before today's Great Lakes settled into shape. 19. The Silver Lake Sand Dunes. Along Lake Michigan's east shore, the Silver Lake Sand Dunes form a scene that seems alien to the eastern U.S. This enormous wind-sculpted sandy expanse covers almost 3,000 acres and splits into zones for various outdoor pursuits. Its standout quirk: it's the sole dune complex east of the Mississippi, allowing private motorized vehicles to roam freely over the sand by law. Steady lake breezes shape them, piling sand inland into soaring, wavy mounds topping 100 feet. Yet the setup stays dynamic. Ongoing gusts keep reshaping the dunes, inching sand farther ashore, and occasionally swallowing trees or landmarks. The outcome mimics a desert backdrop, clashing boldly with Michigan's nearby woods and fields. 18. The St. Clair-Trevor River Delta. Nestled between Michigan and Ontario, Canada, sits the stunning St. Clair River Delta, the world's biggest inland freshwater delta. Also dubbed the North Channel Zone, this sprawling setup emerges as the St. Clair River flows into Lake St. Clair, dumping silt from upstream Great Lakes. Through millennia, those sediments have woven a complex web of wetlands, waterways, and islets covering over 30,000 acres. Distinct from saltwater river mouth deltas, this thrives fully in fresh water, serving as vital grounds for myriad birds, fish, and critters on the move. It also filters naturally, boosting the ecosystem's health. Water flows through the marshes and twisting channels, where sediments and contaminants are slowly filtered out before heading into Lake Erie. Its labyrinth of waterways and isolated islands has long sparked the curiosity of explorers and residents. For centuries, the concealed passages have provided secret paths for smugglers and thrill seekers traversing the expansive Great Lakes area. 17. The structure of the Michigan Basin. Underneath the woodlands and fields of Michigan's Lower Peninsula sits a vast geological feature called the Michigan Basin. This huge B-shaped dip in the Earth's crust spans almost the whole peninsula, extending into adjacent states and nearby Canadian provinces. Over hundreds of millions of years, it developed as sediments from ancient inland seas piled up, pressing the ground downward. As the surface subsided gradually, the deposits formed a wide, rounded shape. This led to rock layers stacked like nested bowls, with the oldest at the periphery and the newest toward the center near Alma. That distinctive setup has significantly influenced the area's natural resources. The basin's stratified rocks have locked away huge deposits of oil, natural gas, and salt far below ground. Meanwhile, the region stands as one of North America's most geologically steady zones, shielded from big quakes and plate movements by its robust, thick crust. 16. The Grand Sable Dunes. Stretching nearly 5 meters along Lake Superior's rough coast, the Grand Sable Dunes stand out as some of the highest and most impressive perched dunes across the Great Lakes. These massive sand heaps sit atop the Grand Sable banks, ancient glacial gravel barriers rising about 300 feet over the chilly lake waters. The dunes rise an additional 80 feet, forming a striking sandy cliff that looms above the shore. Winds blasting across the lake started the process by scooping sand from the bank's exposed sides and blowing it onto the upland plateau. Repeated over ages, this action created the soaring dunes we see now. Even amid relentless sand shifts and fierce gusts, a unique ecosystem thrives there. Rare vegetation has evolved to endure the arid, shifting dune soil. Thanks to their scale and height, the dunes are visible from far offshore on the lake. They've guided mariners for generations through Lake Superior's fickle, tempestuous seas. 15. The color of Tahquamenon Falls. Nestled in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, the mighty Tahquamenon Falls draw attention for their bizarre, eye-catching hue. The cascading water resembles dark root beer or deep amber topped with heavy white froth as it tumbles over the rocks. That signature shade is entirely organic, stemming from tannins leached by cedar and hemlock bogs feeding the Tahquamenon River. Flowing through those swamps, the water picks up compounds from rotting vegetation and foliage, staining it a rich, see-through brown. At the upper falls, A near 50-foot drop agitates the tannin-laden stream with air, whipping up the creamy foam that sharply offsets the shadowy depths below. Spanning almost 200 feet wide, the upper falls are among the widest and most voluminous in the eastern U.S., trailing only Niagara Falls. 14. The Kitchie Spring. Tucked away in woods near Monaste, this stunning natural wonder called Kitiki, from the Ojibwe word for big spring, claims the title of Michigan's largest freshwater spring. It measures about 200 feet across and drops roughly 40 feet deep. Its standout trait is the water's astonishing transparency. So pristine is the basin that people can spot big trout cruising below and old cedar trunks on the floor, looking suspended in space. From limestone fissures deep underground, over 10,000 gallons gush up each minute. That relentless upwelling holds the temperature steady at around 45 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Thus, it stays ice-free through the Upper Peninsula's fiercest winters. The perpetual current also lends the basin a profound emerald glow, popping against the encircling woods. It provides a serene, otherworldly glimpse into the subterranean aquifers sculpting this northern terrain. 13. Along the eastern edge of Lake Michigan, a slim strip of farmland known as the Fruit Belt thrives thanks to its one-of-a-kind microclimate. This zone stands out as one of Michigan's prime areas for fruit production, all powered by the lake's massive water body, acting as a natural climate controller. In winter, the lake's milder temperatures release warmth into the atmosphere, safeguarding nearby orchards from brutal freezes that threaten young fruit trees. By spring, the reverse happens. Chilly lake waters hold back the land's warm-up, postponing tree buds until late frosts are unlikely. That's essential for crops vulnerable to surprise chills. As a result, the region pumps out huge harvests of cherries, apples, peaches, and blueberries. Absent the lake's stabilizing force, this far north spot would be too unforgiving for such delicate produce. It's a prime illustration of how an immense lake can mold both the terrain and local farming economy. 12. The Isle Royale Ice Bridge. Way out in Lake Superior's frigid expanse, Isle Royale National Park forms a secluded island wilderness celebrated for its long-term wolf-moose research. Vast stretches of water keep most mainland animals from reaching it naturally. Yet in brutal winters, a solid ice sheet occasionally spans the lake, forging a temporary ice bridge to shores in Minnesota or Canada. Wolves use these fleeting links to venture across. They inject vital new genes into the island's limited wolf group, staving off dangerous inbreeding. Lately, though, warmer trends have made such bridges rarer, putting the predator-prey equilibrium at risk. This highlights how Great Lakes terrain and weather profoundly influence wild species survival. 11. The Inland Waterway Route. Nestled in the upper part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula lies the captivating Inland Waterway, a natural channel running about 40 miles from Cheboygan on Lake Huron to Conway, right by Lake Michigan. A sequence of interconnected lakes and rivers, Mullet Lake, Burt Lake, Cheboygan River, and the winding Crooked River, blends into a seamless watery trail carving through the northern land. Native groups have navigated this protected path for ages, dodging the turbulent straits of Mackinac. Even now, it offers a unique way for small vessels to traverse much of northern Michigan without facing the exposed Great Lakes. Bordered by swamps, wooded banks, and ancient glacial waters, it showcases the complex water flows defining northern Michigan's rough topography. 10. The geography of Grindstone City. Right at the end of Michigan's thumb perches the tranquil harborside hamlet of Grindstone City. a tiny place with a colossal geological legacy. It once powered a global trade boom from its exceptional Marshall sandstone beds. The rock's superior grit and smoothness made it unbeatable for honing tools and massive machinery. Through the 1800s, it held the title of Earth's top sharpening stone. As orders exploded, vast quarrying efforts gouged into the lakeshore, forever reshaping the coastline. Laborers hewed massive round grindstones straight from the rock face, some topping 6 tons, and sent them to plants everywhere. Synthetic alternatives eventually doomed the business. But clusters of those enormous discarded stone discs linger along the waterfront. These massive stone wheels now serve as quiet monuments to the way one natural resource can transform a coastal area's economy, terrain, and character. 9. The Lost Peninsula Enclave. Among the Great Lakes' oddest landforms is the Lost Peninsula, a detached sliver of Michigan isolated from the rest of the state. Nestled in the southeast edge of Monroe County, this slim land strip creates an exclave accessible only by road through Ohio. The odd setup stems from the Toledo War border dispute in the early 1800s. Once the state's boundary was set along an exact latitude line, it sliced right through the peninsula. Consequently, the upper end stayed with Michigan, but everything below fell to Ohio. With no bridge or direct route to Michigan's main body, locals have to pass through Ohio for any overland trips. The Lost Peninsula highlights how political lines often clash with the facts of the land. 8. The Cowina Fault Line. The Cowina Peninsula is divided by a huge geologic feature called the Cowina Fault, one of North America's major structural breaks. This strong reverse thrust shoved billion-year-old volcanic rock upward over newer Jacobsville sandstone layers. That massive shift forged the area's rugged features, like sheer ridges and impressive waterfalls that mark the peninsula's wild profile. The fault runs over 100 miles from the peninsula's north end toward the Wisconsin line. It formed during the Mid-Continent Rift, when North America almost tore open. Beyond molding northern Michigan's hilly ground, the Cowina Fault opened deep paths for copper-laden fluids to ascend and solidify, sparking the vast copper lodes that fueled the Upper Peninsula's mining boom. 7. The Garden Peninsula Escarpment. On Lake Michigan's north shore, the Garden Peninsula boasts some of Michigan's most dramatic limestone bluffs. These sheer pale walls belong to the vast Niagara Escarpment, the same old formation that birthed Niagara Falls far to the east. At FET Historic State Park, the cliffs soar almost 100 feet from Big Bay de Nock's vivid turquoise depths to Knock. The rock dates to over 400 million years back, built from packed shells and bones of sea life in a long-gone, warm, shallow ocean. The peninsula's layout also formed a safe, deep harbor for big ships, shielded from fierce open lake gusts. That mix of rich ores and easy access turned it ideal for 19th century ironworks. Now the clash of lofty white cliffs and deep blue waves evokes Mediterranean shores. 6. The Les Chenaux Islands. Dotting Lake Huron's north edge are the striking Les Chenaux Islands. The French-derived name means the channels, perfectly capturing a spot where water threads through terrain. This group includes around 36 compact isles, packed along about 12 miles of rough coast in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The standout feature is the twisting network of slim straits between them. These protected routes tame the big lake's fury, forming serene paths safe from the broader Great Lakes' heavy swells. To boaters, they seem like tailor-made navigation lanes. The islands arose from the latest ice age. Retreating glaciers thousands of years ago gouged the ground into elongated drumlines, mounds of dirt, stones, and debris bulldozed by ice. As ice thawed and Great Lakes levels climbed, water swallowed parts of the drumlins, leaving just the crests as the isles we see today. The scene now is a twisting freshwater maze of peaceful coves, tight passages, and crystal-clear routes. Its serene waters and picturesque surroundings have earned the region a stellar reputation among wooden boat enthusiasts and vintage boat aficionados, while the sheltered environments sustain abundant fish species and fragile underwater habitats. All these elements combine to form one of the world's most elaborate and breathtaking networks of freshwater islands. 5. The Antrim Shale Formation. Deep under the woodlands and undulating hills of Michigan's northern Lower Peninsula hides an extraordinary rock layer called the Antrim Shale. This expansive deposit of dark, organic-packed stone holds one of the nation's biggest natural gas reserves, playing a key role in the area's energy landscape. Though concealed far underground, it has profoundly influenced the contemporary economy of northern Michigan. The shale originated in the Devonian period, about 350 million years ago, when the region lay beneath a tranquil, low-oxygen inland sea. Stagnant conditions allowed vast amounts of organic matter, like tiny sea creatures and plant fragments, to accumulate on the ocean bottom. Over eons, sediments piled up, pressing this material into dense strata of carbon-rich black shale loaded with organic elements. The methane locked in this rock stands out due to its source. Much of it in the Antrim Shale is biogenic, generated not by extreme heat and pressure, but by ancient microbial communities that kept decomposing organics long after the shale solidified. These microbes produced methane gradually across geological timescales, which got sealed into the rock's tight grains. Today, this buried treasure has turned the area into a major natural gas hub. Countless wells dot the northern Lower Peninsula, methodically extracting gas from the old seabed. Consequently, a terrain of woods, lakes, and quaint communities rests atop traces of a long-lost ocean, its compressed sediment still fueling Michigan's energy output. 4. The Grand Traverse Bay Depth. Grand Traverse Bay ranks among Lake Michigan's grandest and most captivating embayments, extending far into the northwest of Michigan's Lower Peninsula. A slender landmass called Old Mission Peninsula splits it into elongated east and west arms, shaping the local terrain. Tourists flock to its gleaming blue expanse and beautiful coast, but the bay's real magnitude shines below the waves. The east arm drops far deeper than its counterpart, reaching over 600 feet in spots. Indeed, certain abyssal zones lie below sea level. Draining the bay would expose sections of its floor lower than the global ocean surface, underscoring the dramatic sculpting of the land. This profound depth stems from the massive Laurentide ice sheet that blanketed much of North America in the last ice age. As the glacier crept forward and back, it scoured huge valleys into the Michigan Basin's softer bedrock. The ice's overwhelming force and motion worked like a colossal earth mover, excavating the chasms now brimming with Lake Michigan's waters post-melt. Beyond crafting a striking submerged topography, these profound waters shape the local climate. Their huge mass heats and cools far more gradually than adjacent soil, steadying shore temperatures year-round. This thermal moderation shields nearby orchards from sharp weather shifts and late frosts. Thanks to it, the bay's surrounding slopes host some of America's top fruit belts, renowned for cherries. Thus, glacier-hewn depths keep molding the bay's form, plus the area's farming and finances. 3. The Paskey Stone origin. Michigan's state stone, the Paskey Stone, transcends mere pretty shoreline finds. It's a geological archive linking back to when Michigan's land hugged the equator hundreds of millions of years ago in the Devonian period. Back then, warm, shallow tropical seas blanketed the area, teeming with vibrant coral reefs. The Paskey Stone consists of fossilized relics from an extinct colonial coral called Hexagonaria percarinata. These coral formations thrived in thick reef clusters, where countless tiny polyps coexisted closely. Gradually, every polyp secreted a delicate limestone exoskeleton around its body. On a buffed slab of rock, these separate coral cells create the signature hexagonal design that sets Paskey stones apart at first sight. Once the reefs perished and got buried under accumulating sediments, their frameworks gradually transformed into solid stone across millions of years. Eons afterward, amid the latest ice age, enormous glaciers molding the Great Lakes area gouged into northern Michigan's underlying rock. As the ice sheets pushed forward and pulled back, they ripped free pieces of this fossilized coral, abrading and rolling them over the terrain like pebbles in a colossal natural tumbler. In time, with the glaciers receding to birth Lake Michigan and its fellow Great Lakes, these smoothed fossil bits ended up strewn across the beaches. Nowadays, folks strolling the northern shores can still unearth these ancient gems amid the gravel. Every Paskey stone serves as a tiny echo of the lively tropical oceans that once blanketed the area well before the ice sculpted the Great Lakes. In essence, each shoreline pebble embodies a piece of a long-lost coral reef, enduring through hundreds of millions of years of evolving weather and terrain shifts. Next up, the singing sands of Beat Grease. Tucked along the secluded southern edge of the Kena Peninsula is a serene coastal strip called Beach Gree. It looks like a typical Lake Superior beach at first, yet underfoot lurks one of the Great Lakes' oddest wonders, dubbed the Singing Sands by locals. Stepping firmly on the parched surface or scuffing a hand through the grains triggers an unexpected noise. A sharp squeal or piercing melodic note rising straight from the earth. This eerie sound stems from precise geological traits. The sand grains at Beat Gree are exceptionally consistent in size and form. For millennia, Lake Superior's fierce waves and flows have relentlessly rinsed and sifted the deposits, buffing them into sleek, spherical, almost matching orbs. Thanks to such meticulous sorting, the grains behave in a rare manner when they collide. The mix is mostly silica, with minimal dirt or organic bits. Under pressure, from steps, gliding palms, or gusts, the particles grind and oscillate together at matching speeds. That uniform friction generates the signature squeak or song, earning the beach its fame. Though old tales blame spirits or underground entities for the odd racket, science reveals a graceful blend of earth science and acoustics. Waves, breezes, and ages of erosion have crafted this tranquil coast into a living sound device. For anyone traversing it, each footfall joins an understated symphony, rendering Beat Grease a captivating, one-of-a-kind sensory delight on Lake Superior's edges. Then, the currents of the Straits of Mackinac. Nestled at the slim passage linking Lake Michigan and Lake Huron sits the Great Lakes' most vigorous waterway, the Straits of Machine. This 5-mile-wide passage transcends mere division between Michigan's upper and lower peninsulas. Truly, it's the vital nexus where the vast lakes converge into one unified water mass. Despite map labels treating them apart, Lake Michigan and Lake Huron form a single seamless hydrological entity. The straits act as the main conduit for unrestricted water exchange. This link drives a colossal water surge through the gap, with flows flipping based on wind shifts, air pressure variations, and minor lake level disparities. The volume boggles the mind. At maximum, surges hit 80,000 cubic meters per second, over 30 times Niagara Falls discharge. But unlike a steady river, these flows reverse course every few days, alternating toward Lake Huron or back to Lake Michigan. Such ongoing swap maintains equilibrium, holding water height steady across the basins. Geographically, the Straits of Mackinac pulse as the core engine of the Great Lakes web. Water flowing via this tight passage shapes circulation across thousands of miles of coastline, impacting local ecosystems, commercial shipping lanes, and the daily lives of millions residing beside the expansive freshwater shores in the area.